Have you ever felt the sting of being misunderstood? The ache of unmet needs? Of course you have. It is the most human of experiences. But what if I told you that much of this pain is not born of malice, but of deeply rooted patterns? Patterns that were set into motion long before you could even articulate a word. Today, we unravel a mystery that binds us all in ways we may not even realize. The world of attachment. Specifically, the enigmatic dance of the dismissive avoidant and the fearful avoidant. What is the difference, you ask? Oh, it's a tale of contrast, tragedy, and dare I say, hope. But let us not rush, for to understand the difference between these two elusive attachment styles, we must first peer into the origins of attachment itself. And so, as any good storyteller might suggest, let's start at the beginning. Picture a child, soft, vulnerable, curious. In the arms of a caregiver, they form their first impressions of the world. Is it safe? Am I loved? Will my cries be answered? For some, the answer is a resounding yes. These fortunate ones grow into securely attached individuals, their hearts sturdy as oak, their relationships tending toward harmony. But for others, the answers are more complicated. Now imagine two very different childhoods. In the first, a child is left too often to their own devices, their cries unanswered, their joys unshared. They learn painfully that to need is to be let down. These children grow into dismissive avoidants. They build walls, fortresses even, to protect themselves from a world that, in their experience, offers little in the way of comfort. In the second childhood, the child is not left entirely alone, but is pulled into a strange and heavy dance. Their caregiver's love is conditional, inconsistent. One moment, the child is a savior, a confidant, and the next, an inconvenience. This child becomes the fearful avoidant, both longing for connection and deeply wary of it. They are torn between two worlds, never fully at peace. And so these two children grow into adults. Adults who, despite their differences, share one thing in common, a fear of vulnerability. The dismissive avoidant. They are the stoics of the attachment world, cool, composed, and seemingly unflappable. You might know one, or you might be one. They're the friend who never texts first, the partner who seems immune to conflict, the colleague who appears utterly self-sufficient. But peel back the layers, and you'll find something quite different. Imagine, if you will, a castle. High walls, a deep moat, perhaps a dragon or two for good measure. This is the dismissive avoidance emotional world. It's not that they don't feel. They do. But feelings to them are dangerous, unpredictable things. Vulnerability, that's a Trojan horse, a threat to the carefully constructed order of their lives. Take, for example, a romantic relationship. If their partner expresses a need for more closeness, the dismissive avoidant might pull away. Not out of spite, but because closeness feels suffocating, like an attack on their autonomy. They may retreat into work, hobbies, or even silence, their inner monologue echoing, "Why can't they just understand? I need space." It's not that they don't care, quite the opposite, but their care is buried under layers of self-protection, a defense honed through years of unmet needs. And then, there is the fearful avoidant, a walking contradiction if ever there was one. Warm one moment, distant the next. They are the pendulum, swinging between longing and fear, connection and retreat. If the dismissive avoidant is a fortress, the fearful avoidant is a tide, ever shifting and never still. Consider their childhood, where love often came at a price. Perhaps they had to care for a parent's emotions or suppress their own to keep the peace. This taught them an uncomfortable lesson. Love is transactional and trust is risky. Now, as adults, fearful avoidants crave deep connection. They might be the life of the party, the friend who remembers everyone's birthdays, the partner who showers you with affection. But the moment they feel rejected, or worse, betrayed, they recoil with the force of a storm. In their mind, they're reliving old wounds. See, I knew they couldn't be trusted. Their relationships are a dance of closeness and distance. They might lean in, seeking reassurance, only to push away when it's offered. It's not manipulation, it's survival. They are trying in their way to navigate a world that feels both inviting and dangerous. Let us pause for a moment and discuss criticism. For both attachment styles, it is a dagger to the heart, but for different reasons. The dismissive avoidant, ever the fortress, takes criticism as a breach in their defenses. They may brood over a harsh word, replaying it in their mind like a broken record, though they'd never admit it. Why can't they see I'm doing my best? They might think, though the words never leave their lips. The fearful avoidant, on the other hand, internalizes criticism as confirmation of their deepest fears. I'm not good enough. I'll never be enough. It's a blow not just to their self-esteem, but to their sense of safety. And so they react, sometimes with anger, sometimes with retreat, but always with pain. What happens when these two meet? Now that is a story worth telling. Picture a dismissive avoidant and a fearful avoidant in a relationship. It's a dynamic of push and pull, closeness and distance. The fearful avoidant craves reassurance, while the dismissive avoidant craves space. It's a symphony of mismatched needs. And yet, there is hope. For in this dance, there is also potential for growth. If both can learn to recognize their patterns and communicate their needs, the relationship can become a crucible for healing. The fearful avoidant learns to trust, while the dismissive avoidant learns to open up. It's not easy, far from it, but it is possible. So what is the way forward for these attachment styles? Awareness, my dear friends. Awareness is the first step toward change. To understand one's attachment style is to hold the key to a deeper, more fulfilling life. It is to say, this is why I feel this way, and this is what I can do about it. For the dismissive avoidant, the challenge is to embrace vulnerability, to lower the drawbridge and let others in. For the fearful avoidant, the task is to find balance, to give without overextending, to trust without losing oneself. And for the rest of us, it is to approach these individuals with compassion, to see beyond their defenses to the wounds beneath. For at the end of the day, aren't we all just children longing to be understood? Let us not forget, attachment styles are not destiny, they are starting points. With effort and intention, they can be reshaped. The dismissive avoidant can learn to connect. The fearful avoidant can learn to trust, and in doing so, they can rewrite the scripts of their lives. So as you leave here today, remember this. We are all works in progress, beautifully imperfect and endlessly capable of growth. Whether you are the fortress or the tide, there is a path forward. One of connection, understanding, and above all, hope. Until we meet again, tread gently, love deeply, and remember, the walls we build to protect ourselves are the very walls that keep us from the love we seek.